He looked me straight in the eye and spat on the ground right in front of me. Said he'd find me when he got out. Said he knew people, that my family would never have peace. Every single day, every time I walked into that wing, it was the same thing. Threats, hate, that empty stare that didn't see anyone else beyond his own rage. He wanted me to be afraid, but what he didn't know was that I'd felt fear more times than I could count, and that his arrest was the final drop that made me question everything I was doing, because deep down, I didn't know if I was helping people or just feeding a cycle that would never end. But today he called me to his cell. No cuffs, no guards, just the two of us. I thought it was another mind game, another cheap shot. But when I got close, he didn't threaten me. He cried like a lost child. Said that if it hadn't been for me, he'd be dead. That being arrested was the only thing that gave him a chance to survive. And in that moment, I wasn't sure who the real prisoner was, because I had been trapped too. Trapped in my past, trapped in what I thought justice was. And he set me free. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 42 years old, and for 18 of those years, I wore this badge. I was born and raised in rural Georgia, in a town where everyone knew your name, your sins, and what you did on Saturday nights. My father was the sheriff, a hard man who believed emotions were weakness, and that the world was divided into two kinds of people, those who obey and those who don't. I grew up believing that order came before compassion, and that following the law was the only way to sleep at night. That's why I became a cop, not to be a hero, not to make the news, but because I thought I could fix the world, or at least keep it from falling apart. But the truth is, this uniform is heavy, and with every passing year it weighs more. I've seen it all. A mother begging me not to take her son, children waking up to the sound of handcuffs on their parents, brothers turning on each other over drugs, debts, revenge. I've asked myself 1,000 times if it's worth it, if what we do really changes anything, because sometimes it feels like we're just mopping up a flood. You arrest one, 2 more take his place. You take 1 gun off the street and 10 more show up the next day. But I never stopped going back, never stopped answering the call, never stopped walking into alleys no one else wanted to enter. My wife, she tried to understand this life. In the beginning, she'd leave the light on, waiting for me to come home. Later, she stopped waiting. We divorced 4 years ago, not because of betrayal or fights, but because of silence. I buried everything I saw, everything I felt. I didn't want to drag her into the hell that comes with this badge. And my son, Josh, he was 8 when I lost custody. Now he's 12. I see him once in a while, but the truth is, I'm a stranger in his life. And maybe that's fair, because I chose this life. Chose to protect strangers and left my own family unprotected. I carry that burden. Every cop does. But we learn to hide it. Learn to laugh at the right moments. Harden our gaze. Not to flinch when aiming a weapon. But inside, sometimes the soul bleeds. And I learned to live with that. Or at least, I thought I had. But there's one thing my father never taught me. He taught me how to shoot, how to keep my posture, how to follow protocol. But he never taught me what to do when the enemy isn't out there, when he's inside of you, when the hatred of a prisoner, a criminal, starts to reflect the emptiness you're trying to ignore. And that's when everything started to crumble. When this case came up, I thought it was just another one, just another thug with a big ego and a dirty record. But he didn't just threaten me, he forced me to look at myself. And in the end, the one who was trapped wasn't just him, it was me too. And the key was where I least expected. It was a Tuesday, end of shift. The city had finally calmed down enough for me to start thinking about home, a warm bed, and a decent cup of coffee. The radio had been quiet for a good while, which is rare in Eastfield, especially on the west side. But too much silence is never a good sign. That's when the call came through. Dry, precise codes. Disturbance in progress. Suspected break-in and drug activity. Address, 1245 Lincoln Street. Immediate backup requested. I didn't need the rest. Lincoln Street was familiar ground, one of the most violent areas in the city, controlled by gangs constantly at war with each other, and with us. I knew every alley there, every blood-stained corner, every shadow that hid something worse than fear. In the passenger seat, the rookie, Johnson, fresh from the academy, full of energy and 0 scars. He looked at me, waiting for direction. I just nodded and flipped on the siren. It was routine by now, but deep down, something about that call unsettled me. The tip had come from inside. from someone who knew the gang's movements. Anonymous source, but the details were too sharp to be random. According to dispatch, the house had recently been taken over by a known suspect, Malik Turner, known on the street as Viper. Mid-level drug dealer, dangerous, violent, had exchanged gunfire with us twice and always slipped away. A rat who knew how to hide and how to threaten. This time, we had a hot address, and I knew if we didn't act fast, he'd vanish again. This was our shot. We reached Lincoln with the lights off, siren killed. The car slid down the narrow street while eyes watched us from behind curtains. That place breathed tension. Kids played soccer beside a drug spot. Women stood silently on the sidewalk. And the men, they scattered like shadows, already knowing something was about to go down. We parked half a block from 1245. Two-story house, peeling paint, windows boarded with cardboard, crooked gate. It screamed. Abandonment, but I knew better. That was cover, the kind of place where danger waits in silence. I called for backup on the radio, but I knew before they'd arrive, it could already be over, or lost. Before stepping out, I looked at Johnson. He gripped his weapon tight, but his eyes showed nerves. "First entry?" I asked. He nodded. I took a breath. Follow my lead. No heroics. The front door was ajar. No sign of forced entry. That put me on edge. Either someone had bolted in a hurry, or they were waiting for us. I pushed it open slow, weapon drawn. The smell hit first. Mildew, sweat, and something sour, like old blood. Floors creaked, walls stained, furniture overturned. Then a noise upstairs. Quick footsteps, a door slamming shut. I moved. Johnson at my 6. We climbed each step like it might explode. At the top, silence. One door open at the end of the hall. I crept forward, and there he was, Malik, sitting on the bed, gun on his leg, that smug grin on his face. "You came to get me, Sheriff?" "Calm, too calm," I answered with my weapon aimed at his face. "Stand up slow, Viper, it's over." But I didn't know. That wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. Because at that moment, as he stood with hate in his eyes, an enemy was born. Not just a criminal, a storm. One that wouldn't be contained with cuffs or a cell. He promised revenge, swore he'd destroy me. And I had no idea how far that promise would reach. Lincoln Street had a distinct smell. Anyone who's worked years in that neighborhood knows it. It's a mix of old gasoline, smoke, rotting food, and tension thick in the air. The kind you can almost feel on your skin, like static before a lightning strike. When we turned the corner, the street was alive, but with a strange silence. Too many people on the sidewalks for that time of night. Everyone watching, frozen, like they already knew what was coming. The sound of our tires on the pavement felt too loud, and by instinct, I cut the siren. The red and blue of the light bar still flashed, reflecting in the puddles left by an earlier rain. Each pulse of light was a warning. The cops are here. Brace yourselves. I parked 2 doors down from our target, killed the engine and took a deep breath. Johnson scanned the street nervously. First shift for him on Lincoln. For me, it was just another visit, but something that night didn't sit right. The tip about Malik was too clean, and smart criminals don't wait for the police to knock. This could be a setup. We stepped out quietly, hands on weapons, vests snug against our chests. The radio crackled. Backup en route, but I knew time wasn't on our side. If Malik was still inside, he'd either run or he'd fight. And if he fought, someone was getting hurt. The house stood at the end of the block, squeezed between 2 abandoned buildings. Faded paint, filthy walls, a half-open iron gate creaking in the wind. The yard was overgrown, weeks without a trim. But right there, in the middle of that neglect, something caught my eye. Fresh beer cans, cigarette butts still warm, and the door was cracked open. No forced entry, no busted lock. That was either an invitation or a trap. I approached slowly, weapon ready in my right hand, left hand poised to push the door open fast. Johnson covered my back, breathing hard. I could feel his nerves, and I remembered what that felt like, being young, eager to prove yourself, but with your heart pounding so loud it echoes in your ears. Before entering, I scanned the area. Neighbors watched in silence. An old man on the next porch nodded at me like saying, "It's here." And it was. We both knew. I nudged the door open. The wood creaked loud. The stench of mold and something fouler hit me. Urine, maybe blood. The living room was dark, just a flickering bulb overhead casting weak light. Furniture overturned, torn up sofas, a broken TV on the floor. On the wall, gang tags, snakes intertwined with the letters VLT, Venom Lords, territory, Malik's gang, his den. We moved carefully, step by step. The wooden floor groaned beneath our boots. The heat inside was suffocating, like the air hadn't moved in days. To the left, the kitchen, dishes piled high, food rotting, a smell that clawed at your throat. To the right, a narrow hallway leading deeper into the house. Then, a sound upstairs, floorboards shifting. Someone moved. I signaled to Johnson. He pointed toward the stairs with his chin. We climbed silently, each step deliberate. Upstairs it was darker, windows covered with newspaper, stale air pressing down on us. 3 doors. First one, bathroom, empty. Second, bedroom with a mattress on the floor, dirty blankets, syringes scattered, empty again. Third door, slightly ajar, heavy breathing inside. I approached, weapon raised. One shove, door swung open. There he was, Malik, shirt unbuttoned, tattoos on display, gun resting on his thigh, smirking. "Took your time, Sheriff," he said like he'd been expecting. Me all along, like this was all part of some plan. In that instant, time slowed. I didn't fire, didn't yell, just stared at the man who, in the days to come, would rip my life apart. Arresting him, that was easy. The hard part was surviving everything that came after. Everything that happened next is a blur, but I remember every detail like it's burned into my skin. Because that moment, that cursed instant when our eyes locked, changed everything. Malik didn't flinch, stayed seated at the edge of the bed, gun resting on his leg like he didn't have a care in the world. His smile was cold, laced with contempt. It was like he was daring me. "Go on, Foster. Do what you came to do." I kept my aim fixed on his chest, finger on the trigger. Johnson was behind me, aiming too, but I could see his hand shaking. Rookie nerves. "Drop the weapon, Malik, now." My voice was firm, but inside I was ready for all hell to break loose. He stared at me, like he was studying me. "You're not gonna shoot. Not here, not now, not with the kid watching." Then he did the unthinkable, stood up slowly, gun still in hand, and took 2 steps toward me. "I'm leaving when I want, Sheriff. You don't control anything on this street. If you shoot me, your head's gonna have a price," Johnson shouted. "Weapon down, now." Malik didn't move, just laughed, low and venomous. Then, it happened. He raised the gun, quick, aiming at me. Instinct kicked in. I yelled, "Down!" and fired. 2 shots, deafening inside that small room. The recoil jolted through me. Malik hit the floor hard, his gun skidding across the wood. I moved in fast, Johnson right behind me. Blood pooled under Malik's shoulder and leg. He was hit, but alive, thrashing, cursing, spitting rage. Johnson pinned him while I kicked the weapon out of reach. Seconds later, cuffs on, sirens wailing outside, adrenaline like fire in my veins. Malik kept screaming, "You're dead, Foster. I'm gonna find you. Your family's finished. This ain't over." And I stared at him and said, "Justice doesn't fear threats, Malik." We dragged him downstairs. Outside, the street was swarming. Squad cars pulling up, neighbors filming with their phones. Chaos. Medics rushed in. Malik was strapped to the gurney, still yelling, still burning with hate. A hate that wouldn't die. A hate that I knew was just beginning. The report read clean. Legal entry, armed resistance, shots fired in self-defense. But inside, I knew this wasn't over. Malik wasn't just some street thug. He had reach, influence, connections, and he swore revenge. From that day on, I was a target. It started with strange looks on the street, then phone calls, anonymous. "We know where your kid goes to school. Nice house, Foster. Shame if something happened." My fellow officers told me not to worry, just scare tactics, but I'd seen too much to believe that. Malik went from the hospital straight to a maximum security prison, but even behind bars, he had power. He kept sending messages, kept pushing, and me, I tried to hold my life together. But every time I walked my son to school, every time I stepped outside, I looked over my shoulder. What happened in that house was only the beginning. That's where the line broke, where I realized that arresting a man isn't the end. Sometimes it's just the spark, and the cost, the real cost, was still coming, because the hate I saw in Malik's eyes wasn't just for me. It was for everything I stood for, and he wasn't finished yet. I thought the case was closed the moment Malik was taken away in cuffs, bleeding, spitting threats. I thought the system would take care of the rest, that the cell would be the end of the line for him. But it didn't take even a week, and everything turned upside down. I came back on duty 2 days after the arrest, still tired but trying to move on. The second I walked into the precinct, I could feel it. Something was off. Officers whispering, avoiding eye contact, a heavy silence hanging in the air. I went straight to the captain's office. He barely looked up before tossing a file onto the desk. "This came from the DA. Take a good look." I opened it. Photos, reports, and in the middle, a video. A damn video. Footage from hidden cameras inside the house where we arrested Malik. It showed him receiving visitors in the days before the arrest, but they weren't gang members. They weren't thugs. It was a cop, one of our own, Paul Jenkins, my patrol partner for 3 years. A man I trusted, decorated, respected, and there he was, handing Malik envelopes, shaking hands, laughing like old friends. I didn't want to believe it. This has to be fake, a setup. The captain just shook his head. Anonymous tip. We investigated. Malik had the place wired to watch his crew. We caught Jenkins red-handed. He was selling intel, protecting drug routes, and more. His voice dropped. We intercepted audio. Jenkins sold out your routine, home address, schedules, where your Andiao son goes to school. My world collapsed. Everything Malik had thrown in my face and was real. I'd been betrayed by someone who rode in the same cruiser, who knew my family, who ate at my table. I walked out of that office in a haze. My body was on autopilot, but my mind was racing. I got in my car and drove to my son's school, waited outside, eyes scanning everything. When Josh walked out, I ran to him, hugged him too tight. He looked confused. "Dad, what's wrong?" I lied. "Nothing, buddy, just missed you." But inside, I was breaking. The line between good and evil had shattered. Malik wasn't just a criminal. He was a manipulator, a strategist. He'd planted a snake inside our house, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the poison was spreading. The following week, Jenkins was arrested. No trial, no protest. The precinct went silent again. Shame and rage hanging thick. News headlines screamed, "Officer linked to gang activity arrested." And Malik? He seemed to win. Even locked up, he was still in control. Then came the final blow. I found a note. No name, just 5 words. "You arrested the wrong man." It was in my locker. Same handwriting as the previous note. Malik's. The message was clear. This wasn't over. I requested Malik be transferred to another facility. Put as much distance between us as possible. The answer came fast. Denied. Federal prisons are full. He stays. Then another call. Not a threat. Malik again. Somehow he got through. I picked up, already tense. "Foster, how's the boy?" His voice, low and smug, chilled my blood. "You see the world in black and white. I live in the gray. And in the gray, I survive. You're gonna fall, Sheriff. And when you do, you'll thank me." I hung up. But those words, they stayed. Because in that moment I realized Malik didn't want to kill me. He wanted to break me, to pull me into his world, to make me cross the line. And the worst part was that maybe he already had. I always thought I knew who I was. A man of the law. A protector of order who wore this badge not just out of duty, but because I believed it meant something. For years I clung to that belief like a drowning man clings to driftwood in open water. But after that note, that phone call, and Jenkins' betrayal, everything I believed in began to crumble quietly from the inside out. I stopped sleeping. Every night, I'd wake up from the same nightmare. My house surrounded, my son screaming, Malik laughing. I'd shoot up, drenched in sweat, breathing heavy with my gun beside the bed like danger was just outside the door. And when morning came, I'd put on the uniform and pretend everything was fine. Pretend I was still that firm, unshakable cop. But I wasn't. I started asking myself questions I never dared to before. How far is too far in the name of justice? How much anger can you carry before you become the very thing you hunt? Because I wanted Malik gone. Not for justice. Out of rage, I wanted to wipe that smug smile off his face, see fear in his eyes, silence his voice once and for all, and that terrified me. I found myself watching other inmates differently, with suspicion. I began to doubt my colleagues, my superiors, my friends. Who else was dirty? Who else sold information? Was I the only one trying to do the right thing, or just a fool surrounded by ghosts? One night, I went to the bar where the old-timers from the force hang out. I needed to talk, to get some air, to feel something close to normal. But when I walked in, I saw Jenkins on the news, handcuffed, head down. The other cops were laughing, cracking jokes, treating it like gossip. Always thought that guy was shady, someone said. Cops ain't what they used to be, said another. I walked out disgusted with them, with myself, with everything. I got in my car and drove with no destination. Ended up outside my ex-wife's house. Sat there just watching through the window as Josh played video games, laughing to himself. For a second, everything looked normal. He had no idea about the chaos tearing me apart, and I couldn't let that chaos touch him. But the worst part of all was the guilt. Guilt for letting Jenkins get close, for missing the signs, for putting my family in danger, for arresting Malik, and knowing it hadn't stopped anything. He was still in control. I was still being watched, threatened, and I couldn't do anything about it. I went home, opened the drawer where I keep my father's letters, handwritten notes, from a man who believed in law above all else. A man of the law doesn't cry, doesn't hesitate, doesn't fall. I used to read those words with pride. Now, they felt like chains, because I was falling, and I didn't know how to get back up. In the mirror, I looked at my reflection, and for the first time I saw fear. Not fear of death or facing a criminal, but fear of losing myself, of becoming what I hated. Malik didn't need to kill me. He just needed to corrupt me, to make me cross that invisible line. And the question that haunted me was, how far would I go to protect my family? To end this? How far could I go and still recognize the man in the mirror? I didn't have the answer, but I knew time was running out, and soon I would have to choose justice or vengeance. And maybe I already knew what I was going to choose. The decision didn't come like it does in the movies. No dramatic music, no heroic epiphany. It came in silence, deep inside, on one of those ordinary days that without warning changes everything. I was on night shift, sitting alone in the patrol car, watching the city through the windshield like I had 1,000 times before. That's when my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I picked up, already knowing who it was. Foster. That raspy, cynical voice. Malik. Again. He always knew the exact moment to strike. I heard you've been feeling lost. Nightmares? Trust issues? Everything falling apart, huh? I closed my eyes. Say what you want, Malik. I want to talk. Face to face, just us. I've got something to show you. Something that could set you free or destroy you. I should have hung up. Reported the call. Followed protocol. But something in his voice, in that invitation, hit me deep. And I knew it. This was the line. The line I'd been walking for weeks. And now, I had to choose which side to fall on. I drove to the prison. No backup, no notification. I used my badge to gain access to the visitation area, special clearance. They led me to an isolated room. No cameras, just like he'd demanded. Malik was already there, cuffed to the table, but something in him had shifted. Less arrogance. His eyes, they weren't just filled with hate anymore. There was something else. Exhaustion. Maybe regret. Maybe not. Take a seat, Sheriff, he said, voice rough. I've got a story for you. My last one, I promise. I stayed standing, arms crossed. Start talking? He took a breath. You know why I picked you? Because you're just like me. You don't see it yet, but you will. I laughed coldly. You're a drug dealer, Malik. I'm a cop. We're nothing alike. Oh, but we are. The difference is I already fell, and you're still hanging by a thread. He leaned forward, locking eyes with me. You've felt the rage. You've thought about killing outside the badge. You've wanted justice on your own terms. Jenkins betrayed you. Your captain wants you dead. And me? I just want to show you what's behind the curtain. Why? Why help me? Silence. Then he looked down. Because when you arrested me, you saved me. His words hit me like a punch to the chest. I was on a dead-end path, that house. I was ready to die. Ready to go out guns blazing. But you gave me a second chance. In that cell, I started thinking. About my brother who died from the drugs I pushed. About my mother, begging me to walk away. And when Jenkins got taken down, I realized maybe, just maybe, I could do one thing right. He pulled out another envelope. Inside, our names, transactions, evidence. Your captain's boss, a politician, a financier, untouchable. This guy, he's the head of the snake. I can't take him down, but you can, if you're willing. I took the envelope slowly. Malik continued. I'll give it all up, but you have to promise me something. Not for me, for you. What? Don't become the monster. Don't cross that line. I've been on the other side. There's no coming back. You can destroy the system, but don't let it destroy you. For a moment, the room was silent, and in that cold, concrete cell I saw Malik not as a threat, not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a man who understood the cost of his choices. I stood up. I'm ending this, Malik, with or without you. He gave a tired smile. Then go, Sheriff. Show them there's still a way to win and without losing your soul. I left that room with the envelope in my hand and a different weight in my chest, because in that moment, the war wasn't just against Malik. It was against something much bigger, against the rot, against the darkness, and maybe, for the first time, for redemption. That envelope felt heavier than any weapon I'd ever carried. I walked out of the prison with it clutched in my hand, sweat dripping down my back despite the cold air. The world outside kept spinning, cars passing, people walking, sirens in the distance. But for me, everything was silent, a silence filled with the weight of a choice, because now, there was no turning back. I got into my car, started the engine, and sat there frozen. The key was in the ignition, the motor humming, but I couldn't bring myself to drive. Malik had handed me something real, or maybe it was poison wrapped as truth. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside were 3 things: a list of names and amounts, a flash drive, and copies of bank transfers, all linking known officers to suspicious deposits, including Jenkins and other names I recognized. And at the bottom of the list was my captain. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just corruption, it was systemic rot. I drove straight home, locked the doors, closed the blinds, shut off my phone. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop and hit play. Audio filled the room. Jenkins' voice, clear as day. Foster's getting in the way. He took down Malik, but he doesn't know the half of it. Captain says let him be. For now. Another voice replied, distorted. We'll handle it. If Foster makes noise, his kid might have an accident. Make it look random. My hands trembled. My son. They had plans. Real plans. This wasn't paranoia. It was a death sentence. The next morning I went to the precinct. Tried to keep it together, but I could feel the shift. People looked at me differently. The news of my private meeting with Malik had spread. My captain called me in. Want to tell me what the hell you were doing visiting Malik alone? Just wanted to see if he had any remaining allies. Test the waters. He stared me down, suspicious. And? What did you find? I smiled, still processing. Then I walked out, knowing he was watching my every move. Knowing that now, I was a threat. Not just to Malik, but to the very institution I'd sworn to serve. I went straight to the district attorney, handed over everything, the documents, the audio, the list. Told him I wanted protection for my son, for me. He listened silently, then sighed. You realize what you're doing, Foster. This could bring down powerful people, including you if you slip. I don't care. I just want justice and I want my son safe. He nodded. We'll open an internal investigation quietly, but until then, watch your back. I didn't go home. Took Josh and my ex-wife to a hotel out of town. Made up some excuse. She knew something was wrong but didn't press. She just wanted our son safe. That night I slept with my gun in hand, leaning against the door. Every tick of the clock felt like a countdown. 2 days later, the bomb dropped. Jenkins was found dead in his cell. Suicide, they said, but I knew better. Someone silenced him before he could talk. Malik? The captain? Both? The DA called me in the middle of the night. Be careful, Foster. You're next. That's when I knew. I'd crossed the line. I was in the heart of the storm now. It wasn't just about Malik. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about a system that would do anything to survive. And I was willing to do anything to tear it down, even if it cost me everything. Because if Malik thought he'd already won, he didn't know me at all. Not yet. Life has these moments when everything stops. Time slows down, the noise fades, and all that's left is you and a choice. That's exactly what happened during that visit, a meeting I never thought I'd have, with someone who until then was nothing but hate, threats, and pain. I got the call from the DA. Malik wants to speak with you again, says he has more evidence and will only give it to you. My first reaction was to refuse. It sounded insane, but something told me I had to go. Not for him, for me, because there were questions that wouldn't stop ringing in my head. How did he know so much? Why me? And more, why did he talk to me like he understood me? I went back to the prison, this time with an escort. I wanted everything documented, camera rolling, proper protocol. Malik was in the same room, but something was different, less arrogance. His eyes weren't just filled with hate anymore. There was something deeper, weariness, maybe regret. "Sit down, Sheriff," he began, voice rough. "I've got a story for you. My last one, I swear." I crossed my arms. "Let's hear it." He took a breath. "You want to know why I chose you? Because you're just like me. You don't see it yet, but you will." I let out a bitter laugh. "You're a drug dealer, Malik. I'm a cop. We're nothing alike." "Oh, we are. The only difference is, I already fell. You're still holding on." He leaned forward, eyes locked onto mine. "You felt the hate. Wanted to pull the trigger without backup, without rules. You've tasted that darkness. Jenkins betrayed you. Your captain wants you gone. And me? I'm just here to show you what you're really fighting." "Why? Why help me?" He went silent, then looked down. "Because when you arrested me, you saved my life." His words hit me hard. I was done, Foster. That house? I was ready to die, ready to shoot it out and go out in flames. But you stopped me. In that cell, I thought. About my little brother, died from the drugs I sold. About my mother, begged me to leave the streets. And when I heard Jenkins got taken down, I realized maybe I had one chance left to do something right. He slid another envelope across the table. "Inside's everything. The real boss, a politician, the money behind all of it. He can't be touched unless you fight smart." I picked up the envelope slowly. Malik continued, "I'll give you everything, but promise me one thing. Not for me, for yourself." "What?" "Don't become the monster. Don't cross that line. I crossed it. There's no coming back. You can destroy the rot, but don't let it destroy you." For a long moment there was silence. In that cold, gray room surrounded by steel and concrete, I saw the man I once hunted. Not as prey, not as a victim, not as a hero, but as someone who had finally seen the price of his own choices. I stood. "I'll end this, Malik. With or without you." He gave a tired smile. "Then do it, Sheriff. Show the world there's still a way to win, without losing your soul." I walked out with the envelope in my hand, and a weight in my chest I'd never known before. Because now, the battle wasn't just against Malik. It was against something bigger. Against the rot, the darkness, and maybe, for the first time, for redemption. I walked out of that prison a different man. It wasn't sudden, like a lightning bolt. It didn't hit me all at once. It crept in, slow and heavy, like the cold. Over the years I wore this badge like armor, believing that it meant something. That if I arrested the bad guys, followed the rules, wrote the reports, I was doing my part. That I was making a difference. But in that moment, with Malik staring at me not as an enemy, but as a mirror, I saw it. And what I saw broke something inside me. That night I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The envelope he gave me sat on the table, untouched. I just sat there watching the city lights flicker through the window, asking myself the same question over and over. Had I really been serving justice or just surviving in a broken system? I realized something in that silence. Justice isn't loud. It's not about big busts or headlines or medals. Justice lives in the quiet choices, in choosing not to take the easy road, in refusing to become the very thing you swore to fight. And for the first time, I understood. Malik didn't break me. He revealed me. He forced me to see the cracks I had been ignoring. The next morning, I called the DA. "Let's go. After them." His voice was cautious. "Are you sure, Foster? You're putting everything on the line." I answered, steady. "It's time. No more hiding." We started the process. Quiet. Strategic. The evidence was solid. The names, the transfers, the recordings, all of it damning. One by one, the dominoes began to fall. Arrests were made. Internal Affairs launched a full-scale investigation. My captain was suspended, charged, exposed for what he truly was. And me? I became radioactive. Other officers avoided me like the plague. Some called me a rat, a traitor. The precinct halls grew cold and silent when I walked through, but I didn't care anymore. I wasn't there for them. I was there for the truth. And through all of it, I found my son again. One afternoon after school, Josh looked at me and asked, "Dad, why do people keep talking about you on the news?" I took a breath and answered, "Because I did what was right, son. Even when it was hard, even when it hurt." He smiled and hugged me. A simple thing, but in that hug, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. the kind that comes when you know you've finally done the right thing. As for Malik, he was transferred. I don't know where, don't want to know, but before he left, he sent one last note. Just a few words. Thanks for not crossing the line. You saved more than you know. I kept that note, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that sometimes the real enemy isn't out there, it's inside us. And defeating that enemy, that's the real victory. On paper, the case closed like so many others. A warrant executed successfully. One suspect wounded and taken into custody. Reports filed, procedures followed. Jenkins, found dead in his cell, officially ruled a suicide under investigation. The captain suspended awaiting trial. Malik transferred to a maximum security federal prison at an undisclosed location. End of story. At least, officially. But in reality, nothing ended. Behind the scenes, the case exploded. The DA formed a task force to dig into the connections between corrupt officers and organized crime. Some were arrested, others quietly disappeared. Many simply resigned. My name, Foster, became something whispered around the department. Some spoke it with respect, others with fear. In the locker room, the air shifted. Cold shoulders, sideways glances. Silence said more than words. I was called into internal affairs 4 times in 2 weeks. They wanted answers. Why had I entered Malik's house? Alone? Why had I met with him off protocol? They wanted to break me. I told them everything, the whole truth. And deep down, I knew. Every word I spoke was another nail in the coffin of my career. A month later, the letter arrived. Early retirement granted by recommendation of command. Translation: get out quietly. No scandal. I had become a problem. A reminder that justice sometimes hurts more than crime. I signed the papers. On my last day, I emptied my locker in silence, took my gun, my badge, a few personal items, looked around the room I had known for nearly 2 decades. Every wall, every desk, every face etched into memory. Some real, some masks. Johnson walked up to me, still green but different now, harder eyes. He shook my hand. Thank you, Sergeant, for not staying silent. I gripped his hand firmly. Now it's your turn. Stay on the line. Then I walked out. Outside, the city felt different, brighter, freer. But inside, I was a storm of relief and emptiness. I went home. Days passed quietly. I kept wondering if it had been worth it. Losing the job, the respect, the life I'd known. For what? For truth? For justice? Then I received a letter. No sender. Handwritten. Just a few words. You saved more than yourself. You saved those who still believe justice is real. M. I closed my eyes, breathed deep. The case was over, but my mission wasn't, because I finally understood. Justice doesn't live in courtrooms or squad cars. It lives in the courage to do what's right when no one's watching, when everything's on the line. And I had paid the price. But in the end, I got back what mattered most. My name, my peace, and my son's respect. He knows now that his father wasn't just a cop. He was a man who stood up, who fought, and who never crossed the line. And that was enough. There are some lessons you learn too late. Others, life teaches the hard way, through scars, pain, and loss. I spent most of my career believing that justice was simple, black and white, right versus wrong. But the truth is, justice lives in the gray, a murky space where choices are never clean, where sometimes to save what's right, you have to face the darkest parts of yourself. For years, I thought putting criminals behind bars was enough, that slapping on the cuffs, filling out the paperwork, and trusting the system was doing my job. I followed orders, filed reports, hid behind the rules. But when Malik came into my life, all of that shattered. He wasn't just another case. He was the mirror I didn't want to look into, a broken man who forced me to see just how broken I had become. And more than that, he forced me to choose between vengeance and integrity, between hate and truth, between becoming part of the corruption or standing alone against it, knowing it would cost me everything. And yes, I lost. I lost my career, my fellow officers, the brotherhood, but I gained something priceless. Freedom. Freedom of conscience. Freedom to look my son in the eye and know that when it came down to it, I didn't cross the line. I didn't become what I hunted. Today, my life is quiet. I wake up early, have coffee with Josh on the mornings he's with me, walk the city as a regular man. Sometimes I'm recognized. People stare, whisper. Some thank me. Some avoid me. It doesn't matter. What matters is, I sleep in peace. Malik remains in prison. I don't know where, and I don't want to. He served his purpose. He showed me that even in darkness, there can be a spark of redemption, and that's something I carry with me. As for Jenkins, he was buried with honors. Some called him a hero, others a traitor. Me, I just feel sorrow. Sorrow that no one reached out to him sooner, that he thought crossing the line meant salvation. Because there's always a choice. Always. If I could leave you with one message, it's this. Don't wait for the world to break you to realize what truly matters. Don't wait for fear to knock on your door to find your courage. Strength isn't in carrying a gun or shouting the loudest. Strength is in keeping your soul clean in a dirty world, in doing what's right, even when no one else will. And if one day you find yourself on the edge, staring into the abyss, remember this. Sometimes arresting someone won't save the world, but it might save you, because the real prison is living with the wrong choices, and true freedom is being able to look back and know that, in the end, you fought, you endured, you stayed standing. My name is Daniel Foster. I was a cop for 18 years, and in this story, not the prisoner was set free, and so was I. Subscribe to the channel now if you want to hear more emotional real-life stories from police officers, and drop a comment below. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? It could be a memory, a dilemma, a single line, anything. I read every single comment, and I promise you, it's in your voices that this mission continues. I'll see you in the next episode.